Hello, this is Dolores, Dr. Barbo, but Dolores from Neighborhood Connections. We're back again with our program. The doc is in. And instead of doing our regular questions and answers from everybody who stops us on the street, as you know, we're doing some series. And we've been doing a series on memory and had a wonderful interview with Brother John from the Priory, if you remember, who's having memory problems, but only memory problems, and different from other sources of memory difficulties that we're calling dementia. And part of the looking at this is looking at not just the people who get ill, who get the illness, who get this thing we don't want to look at, but also looking at the people who walk the journey with them. So today I've asked Thad Buckley to come in. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Thaddius. I go by Thad.
And Thad is here because of Charlotte. Thad, can you tell us a little bit who Charlotte was before she got ill?
You know, Charlotte was absolutely wonderful, and I loved her. We were married almost 50 years. I think it was like 49 when she passed away. But she started to show some signs of stress, if you will, before we left New Jersey and we moved up here in 2000. And the way things showed up, there were a number of ways. She started to have problems at school with other teachers.
What was she doing?
Well, her personality was changing. That's what was happening. And she become more argumentative with them. She seemed to have problems with women more than men, and at that time I was working for AT&T. I was on the road a lot, so I would be gone probably every other week and sometimes every 2 weeks. So I was not home a lot, so she was really there with our youngest, Elizabeth, who was in school with her at the Stewart Country Day School of the Sacred Heart in Princeton. And Lizzie didn't seem to notice things, but I knew some of the things that I would hear from Charlotte, like she was having problems with some of the teachers at work.
And that was not normal?
No, absolutely not. She was normally congenial. She was considered a master teacher. And in fact, this one friend of ours who was a superintendent in schools down there would just rave about what a good teacher she was, because she really was. And so what happened is we eventually moved up to Weston in 2000, actually on Martin Luther King's birthday of 2000.
Okay.
But Lizzie stayed in for the rest of that semester, her freshman year at Stewart Country Day School, and we came up to Weston and she started in Burton. But, and then Charlotte went to work for MSJ in Rutland. But during this time, different things would show up. Like, I remember being out at Jones Beach with some friends. They're still friends. We'll see them for St. Patty's Day in a couple of weeks in Florida. And this gal, Charlotte, actually got to convert to Catholicism from Protestantism so that their marriage would be smoother as they went forward. And I went to their 50th wedding anniversary, and one of the greatest things there was, and one of the things I was really afraid of, was I would see Charlotte getting into the car, you know, and this is 50 years later. But she was absolutely beautiful, absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. And, you know, so, I mean, it actually wasn't bad. It was actually good. And I was there with a cousin of Lucille's, who was her girlfriend, who had lost her son in 9/11. Well, no, that couldn't have been, because you know, I went to their 50th wedding anniversary, and this was after the
Afterwards.
fact. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, that doesn't add anything. So that was one thing. I remember we were at Jones's Beach with that couple, and Charlotte ignored her and went to talk to some other people on the side. And Lucille says, "What am I, chopped liver? What's going on?" So things like that would show up. Sometimes when we would be out for dinner, she would get up and she would want to coach the wait staff to go back to school, leave this job, and go back and get a degree in college.
People she never met before.
Absolutely. And I'd be trying to shepherd her, "Charlotte, please sit down, let them do their job, they're supposed to be waiting on us. Come on, sit over here and sit down, So, and then, some other things would show up, like she became a kleptomaniac, which was kind of interesting because she would take things and put her in, we're in a store, a drugstore or a supermarket, and what I would notice is that she would stick her pocketbook high under her arm, and we'd come up to the checkout. I said, "Honey, let me see your bag," and she'd say, "Okay," and I'd open it up and say, "Well, we want this, we don't want this, we don't want this, we want this, we don't want this, we don't want this," and give it back to her. I says, "Thanks for doing the shopping, honey," because I wouldn't want her to get caught. I didn't want to get embarrassed either, because I didn't think that she was responsible for that, and that was a way to protect her because I loved her.
Wow. What did that feel like in front of the cashier? Did you ever have to say anything or do anything?
No,
It was just like part of...
Well, it was that's just how it was, If there were an issue, I said, "Listen, she's not responsible for that. She's ill, and this is how we're coping with it. If you have a problem with that, that's not my problem. That's yours."
I think one of the things I remember, because I happened to watch this happen, you were in, I don't know if it was the IGA or Shaw's, but I happened to be there. And Charlotte went up to, like you're saying in the wait staff, Charlotte went up to a group of people stocking shelves or something and started telling them they should be going back to college. And you just let that conversation happen. And then you went, after she moved on, you went up to the group of kids and said, "Please excuse my wife, she's ill and she doesn't really mean to be bothering you."
Right. No,
and I was so impressed with that.
No, and it would happen more often than not at a restaurant because she would normally go up and do things like that. But that's who she was.
And you still took her to restaurants?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, she liked that.
Yeah. What diagnosis did she have?
Well, she was finally diagnosed with Pick's disease.
Which is?
Which is a form of frontotemporal dementia where the frontal lobe slowly disappears. So all your executive functions are in that part of your brain. So during the process of learning what was wrong with her, which took like 2 years, we had gone and she had taken a series of tests with psychologists, and then they would review it with me. And she did that once, and then she did it the second time, and she was getting worse, And then they wanted to organize. I said, no. Listen, we know
we don't need to do this. Right?
That all it does is just confuse her because she's a very, very intelligent woman, a lot smarter than himself. She had a very high IQ and was just absolutely brilliant, and And
it was gone or going.
Well, going. It was slowly going. In all the time, she only mentioned that she was sick one time, and we were out in California at Palm Desert at a timeshare, and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, her sister and brother-in-law, were coming to visit, and she asked me, she says, "Does Ann know that there's anything wrong with my brain?" So I said, "No." She says, "Good. Don't tell her."
As if she's not going to notice, right?
Well, that just showed.
But that is amazing that she actually...
I mean, that just showed how flawed she was because, she would not expect her to know.
Yeah.
But things like that. So those are...
But that's the only time she publicly talked about it, even with you.
Right. Only one time.
Wow.
And that was probably in 2004, because she had just been diagnosed with Pick's disease, and we're scouring the internet to try and figure out what's Pick's disease. And my daughter Jennifer was big into doing analysis to try and understand what was going on, And the thing that led us towards the PICS was a change in personality, because she really did have a big change in personality, because she was normally just loving and kind, and then, you know, then she just, if you were wearing a skirt, she didn't like you.
Whatever that was about, no?
Yeah, yeah. And eventually, and she would go through phases like that. She would go through, like, she wasn't always a kleptomaniac. I mean, she went through that phase and then it was gone. But you always had to be aware of it. You know, I always check for the pocket, where was it? You know, just to keep that. But, you know, she was...
And then as she got worse, what kind of things happened?
Well, you know, I had to adjust more.
Well, that I was going to get to. Go ahead.
I had to adjust my behavior more, because I had to take on more of the things, and there was a time when she couldn't do anything, and that's when I had to do everything. But I would call it grace. I had the grace to fall into that. Plus, I had very good doctors over at Dartmouth, and they were counseling me and, you know, trying to anticipate what was going to happen next. And so that as these things happened, a lot of the stuff it would happen, I bring it to the, what do you think about this? Well, that's pretty much the pattern of Pick's disease, because that, you know, her brain is deteriorating. And I always wanted them to do another MRI, because in the one MRI, it showed, you know, where there was a void of cells.
An empty, yeah.
An empty space. And I always wanted to
see it. Yeah.
I just wanted to see it. You know, it's like my scientific brain said, I want to see it. This is getting worse. But it was getting worse. And but he would never do it, because he said, you know, he says, it's going to scare her. She doesn't like
going in the machine.
Going in the machine. She's afraid of the noises. Don't do it. And I said, okay. You know, so I really acquiesced to him, really, because it wasn't that important to me, but I still wanted to know.
You still wanted to know.
Yeah, you know, and so I would just say, okay, and you know, the kids would ask, you know, what happened, and you know, and sometimes the kids would come with me too, so that they were actually in on the medical side, that input I was getting for Charlotte, and so that's sort of.
So when you were saying pretty much she couldn't do anything towards, as things got worse and worse.
But
Not only she couldn't cook or do the wash or something,
right.
but could she take care of herself?
No. Actually, I eventually, I would get her up in the morning, and I would get her into the bathroom, take down her briefs, you know, and throw them in the trash, and get a washcloth, clean her up, you know, and then when she was in bed and he couldn't, then I would, you know, give her a sponge bath, if you will, and you know, in the end, where she would soil herself again, I'd be there.
You would just do it.
Yeah, just do it, and you know, you got to do what you got to do, and you just do it. You know, I was really lucky that I did not balk at that. You know, and the other thing is, throughout my life, for a while we were very involved in Marriage Counter, wrote a lot of talks on things, and one of the fears I had was of not doing the right thing, you know, and I never wanted to fail her, and in this case, that's why I did what I did. You know, it was like that was somehow ingrained in me that I should not fail. And I wouldn't fail. And when she was functional, we had talked about, you know, what will we do if either one of us got sick. And she would say, listen, I always want to stay at home. Don't put me in a nursing home. You know, and I said, okay, you know, I'll try and do that. And in fact, I actually went out to look at nursing homes with my friend Gloria Dawson. But the reason I went was to, just in case she fell and broke a leg or something like that, where you have to do something, I would put her in short term. I would never want her to be in there permanently. But I wanted to see what was out there, because I didn't know what was out there. And when I went out to look, I was shocked at how shoddy they were for the most part. There was one or two that were very good. Our home up in Vermont was one of the ones
appropriate for her,
that
right.
I thought that if worse comes to worse, she had to go in there short time, that's where I would have put her. But other than that, I really wanted to keep her home, which fortunately I was able to do that. And in fact, even when she was at the end, when she was dying, what I was really concerned about was to get the girls in so that they could reconcile themselves with their mother.
They don't live nearby.
No.
So what was that?
Well, you know, each of them, I mean, Charlotte had issues with each of the girls, you know, and when she couldn't get along with women.
That was bad. Did she know
my
them?
family, she knew them till the end.
Okay.
But that didn't mean that they didn't each have issues. And what I wanted to do was for them to have a coming together in the end, so that there would be no junk left over.
Was that
Yeah.
able to be done? Was that able to be
Yes, yes. And in fact, my daughter from Colorado come out just 2 days before she passed, and she spent those 2 days with her. And she was the one who had the most issues, you know. And it turned out that they were able to resolve those issues.
done? Wow.
You know, so.
That's huge, actually.
Oh yeah, no. So, you know.
And for her to know that, because if I remember correctly, Charlotte would sit on the couch for hours and look at books and pictures,
right.
and
Yeah, what she
so
would do is she
wasn't processing time-wise. Time was whatever it was.
right, but she would run her finger over the masthead, if you will, and then if you asked her what it said, she could read that back to you. I mean, she could actually process that and talk to that. I remember one time I went in to get her up. This is towards the end, and she couldn't stand up. I said, all right, honey, sit down. I have to do a few things. And so I called a friend and I said, listen, who has the duty wheelchair? Carol Kettle. And I said, listen, would you just drop it in the garage, the door's open, bang on the door so I know you're there, and I'll take care of it. So that's what she did. So I come up with the wheelchair, I wheeled it into the bedroom, got her to stand up, sat her in the wheelchair, gone into the bathroom, got her out of the wheelchair onto the can, got her all cleaned up, wheeled her over, made breakfast, fed her breakfast, wheeled her into the living room to where she would sit, and I stand her up, and she looks me square in the eye. She says, "Don't drop me." I said, "Yes, sir."
And that was at a time she wasn't talking a whole lot.
No, she actually wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, she had stopped talking there for a while.
So don't drop me.
She says, "Don't drop me." Yes, ma'am. I gave her a salute, and you know.
That in all of this, how did it change you?
Well, my heart got bigger. You know, because I was able to. I cried a lot, but I would never cry in front of her. I would, you know, our house, we had upstairs, we called it a bonus room. But sometimes I would just have to go up the stairs, and I'd be going up the stairs, and sometimes I get halfway up, and I just break down, and I just cry, and cry, and cry, and cry. And then, you know, I'd be able to go on. I come back, and I do what I have to do. And plus, I had tremendous support. The brothers were absolutely wonderful. What they saw in me supporting Charlotte was their commitment to one another. And that's what they recognized, and that's what they applauded, and that helped me to keep going. And it was a wonderful gift.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we can't do this kind of thing alone, can we?
Oh, absolutely not. You know, and it's funny, I went to a help group up in Rutland at, I forget the name of the place, but it was right next to the big church that they do the Christmas song.
Right next to Grace.
Right, exactly.
To Grace.
That facility there, and the reason I went there was the woman thought she had some folks with Pick's disease, so that I could get some hands-on sharing, if you will, but. In all the times I went there was never anyone there with Pick's, you know, supporting a Pick's patient, so that I wouldn't get any really first-hand stuff, you know. But I don't know what they could have told me that I didn't know, because I really knew more. I knew more than I thought I knew.
It sounds like you learned a lot in the going.
Oh yeah, no. It was really on-the-job training, you know, and yet. But the folks that were there, they were dealing with folks with Alzheimer's, and it's something similar, but it's not. It's different, But I would learn from them how they were coping, and I said, well, I really have to do basically the same thing. It was just a little different.
Yeah. Did you ever meet anybody else who was caring for a Pick's disease?
No, actually, after the fact, one of our babysitters from Cresskill, where we lived in New Jersey, her husband had it, and she called me for coaching on how to help him because Charlotte was further along than he was, but he had been getting physical with her. And Charlotte had never done that. But I've heard that as a lot of people with PICS, it could go that way.
Right.
And so I was always aware of that, but I never experienced it with Charlotte.
Yeah.
Thank God.
It sounds like her.
I had to get clocked.
She got angry, but she didn't get physical.
Right. And probably, when as much as I know about PICS, I'm sure that those patients were frustrated because they just couldn't understand what was going on. I'm thinking back to when they finally revoked her license because she couldn't drive. She got into an accident and left the scene of the accident, and I get a call 3 weeks later, and the guy tells me where it was and what happened. I said, listen, I says, my wife is not well. She shouldn't be driving. I'm trying to get her license revoked right now. Send me the bill, and I'll take care of it. I don't want to go through the insurance. I'll just pay it. And it was a money, I don't know, $150 or something like that. And so that was, and then, other times, like when she would be driving to work, once she was going down over the mountain into Ludlow, and she lost her, her steerage, if you will, and bounced off the fences that were keeping her out from going into the woods, and we'd get that fixed. But slowly, it was like, this is not good.
Time.
Yeah, we were going over to Market Basket once, and if you remember how to go there from here, just when you're getting off, I guess, I don't know, it's 103.
103.
103 going up into town. There's a turn coming down. So she went right up there. So she went into the one-way traffic. I mean, there was no one there. But that was when I said, she got to stop. And I called the doctor. In fact, I called the doctor. I say, Doc, he says, we got to revoke the license. He says, okay, I'll do it. Sure enough, she gets a letter 3 or 4 days later that her license is revoked. So,
how did she deal with that since she wasn't dealing with the fact that there was anything wrong?
Well, what I blamed it on the state.
Oh, okay.
I says, listen, and the doctors, I says, listen, doctors think that you can't drive, so they've taken your license away. So you're not allowed to drive anymore. But, like driving Miss Daisy, anywhere you want to go, I'll take you. Doesn't matter what time or anything. I'll take care of you. And fortunately, I had retired by this time, so I was home, so I could do this. So wherever she wanted to go, I would remember that and just honor that, because, and then I think once or twice she actually found the keys and took the car down to Ludlow, and I had my heart in my mouth until she came back, But she was a very independent woman. I mean, she was a very strong woman, and she had her own agenda.
Yep.
And I wasn't going to change it, of all people.
Did the kids ever want you not to have her at home?
No, they really went along because I explained to them what we had talked about and what I wanted to do and what she wanted. And the kids were fine with that. They were a little concerned because it puts more stress on me. But somehow I was able to deal with that. And who was great with that too was Gloria. In the end, she grabbed me. She said, hey, Buckley, you know what's going to happen? You're going to have a heart attack. You're going to die. What the hell is going to happen to Charlotte? She says, you have to reach out to the community and ask for help. So I hemmed and hawed about that for a while. And I said, listen, I'll tell you what. I'm going to send you a note. You make it look pretty, and I'll send it out. Send it back to me. And that's what we did. And actually, 14 people responded and said that they would give me any support I wanted. And all I needed was, to get out and go shopping so that she wouldn't be alone. Because if I left her alone, then I was worried, So why create more stress that way? So the community was wonderful in that sense that they came out and would watch her. So I actually got the one movie too. but then I got to the movie, and I says, God, I don't want to be here,
But there you were.
Yeah,
So again, community is really what helped pull you through.
Absolutely, and then plus people were just very supportive, the pat on the back, the hug, just listen, we're praying for you, and and that really helped me get through it.
Thanks, Thad.
Anything else?
You got time for one more question?
I got time for one more question.
Like 5 minutes.
Where are you now?
Now
Because how long ago did Charlotte die?
She died the day after St. Patty's Day in 2012.
Of all days for you.
Yeah. Was something about the Irish whiskey I
Yes,
gave her?
yes,
No,
yes.
I'm only kidding. No, I mean, she just, that was her time. And that was, we were almost married 49 years. We would have been married 49 years in June. And where I am now, and then plus, the other thing, all through that process, I was in grief counseling, anticipatory
I thought
grief
you were.
counseling with Sherry Alper. And that was wonderful because, again, that was another support where I would have questions answered, and I would get constant feedback because I saw her on a weekly basis. And she was just absolutely wonderful. And let me see, what was the question?
And I wondered where you went from 2012 to now.
Oh, so then what happened after that for a couple of years, I was just, I wasn't even acknowledging that I was lonely. So that, I mean, it's nothing, I just, I was just charging ahead. And in fact, I had gone out to visit with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law out in Arizona. And I came home, and when I was out there, they were trying to fix me up with some widows out there. I say, hey, I'm really not ready for that. And I actually wasn't. And then another friend of mine was trying to fix me up with a friend of hers whose husband had died around the time when Charlotte was diagnosed. So we really went through about the same period of grief, except we didn't know one another.
Yeah.
And I had met her at her house for lunch, and then they orchestrated another dinner at her house that I went to. And then all of a sudden, and we stopped and we talked. We had some real in-depth talks. And then I gave Gloria a call. I says, Gloria, what the hell is going, where are these feelings come from? And she says, Buckley, she says,
They're waking up.
It's what should be, and this is what Charlotte would want. Charlotte would not want you to be alone. And that's how I met my friend Maria, and we're in love, and
It's good
It's what you need. It's not good to be alone.
to be alone. So you're doing good.
Yes. And
Charlotte would love that.
Absolutely. In fact, we stopped down for her birthday at the Priory. She's buried at the Priory. And I got 3 roses, one for each of the girls. And I laid them right on well, it was actually ice. I laid them on the ice. So I'll have to go up and see what they look like now.
Good.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Thad, and thank you, everybody, for joining us for this sharing, and for all of you who are taking care of other people who are living their journey. Just know that we are all thinking of you, and send our energy, our good love, our thoughts, our prayers. And join in next week for all we're doing, okay? Thank you.